Okay, we're good now. We can go ahead and start.
Okay, it's 6:03 and I call the meeting of November 27th, 2023 of the Millwood Tree and Beautification Board called to order.
Perfect, and I'll go ahead and call roll. Charlie Peterson,
Here.
Vicky Nacarado,
Here.
Debbie, you have to,
Lehinger.
perfect.
Here.
Thank you. So it looks like all three members are present. And so moving on to previous action items, does anyone have anything to discuss on those previous action items? Say no?
No.
Perfect. I think we'll go ahead and move on to current action items. The first being a discussion to update ordinance 364 to reflect the urban management plan that the city adopted. And I did give everybody a copy of that ordinance. That's the ordinance, correct?
Mhm.
Perfect. Kyle, do you want to kind of talk a little bit about
So
what we need to do?
I think between Denise and I and Lisa over the last few weeks here and there when we've had some free minutes, we kind of looked over the ordinance. And I want your guys' opinions on what you interpret it as, but we kind of came to the conclusion that there isn't anything defined in the ordinance that our urban forestry plan is going to contradict in any way or vice versa. But I would just like you guys to kind of read through it and back us up on that, you know, or if you have questions and concerns, then we'll have to address them. But I didn't, like I said, we didn't see anything of any too much interest. We highlighted a couple areas there that were probably the main things we want to at least have you guys read.
What is that item? 4 and 5 under number 3? So what do you think we need to update as far as enforcing authority? Do we need to update that to be able to fine people for removing trees that they're not supposed to, or planting trees that?
Can we go back just a little to the duties of the board on A, is conduct the monthly and special meetings. Do we want to change that somehow so the verbiage reflects that we may or may not meet, you know, we have to meet quarterly, but monthly here kind of implies that we need to meet monthly and we don't.
It does. Okay, so let's.
So to conduct quarterly meetings and special meetings, because I think that's the way we kind of did it. We met quarterly, and then anytime extra we needed to do with that. I think that would cover it. Would you?
Yeah, I agree with that. Okay.
Okay, then we can jump back up into enforcing. See something
Do
else?
we need to change town to city?
You know, it's.
I'm
Yes,
just reading
I would
it.
say probably yes. Yeah, let's see.
So you can tell how long ago we did that. Huh?
Right, I know a lot of the older stuff all says town and then everything recently says,
Even up here in town of Millwood.
so probably the whole thing will need to be updated to wording to
composed of
happened.
4 members.
That never happened.
Okay.
I don't know if that should be,
I don't know, you know, it seems like the mayor's just always gotten around it by reappointing us and whatever. 'Cause there's
Okay.
not a lot of people.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's how all the other commissions and councils work too,
Yeah.
is if people can be reappointed if they want to.
So the enforcing authority, what do you think?
What were your thoughts on that? Cause you're the one who highlighted that, or who highlighted that?
Lisa highlighted it. As far as the enforcing authority, I guess it's fine to keep the mayor as,
Well, he can dictate
right,
who, if not him, is the enforcement authority.
Yeah, cause it says that authorized representative, so he can assign anyone, I mean, that could be anyone in public works, that could be, you know,
Right.
the city
That
clerk,
makes
that could
sense.
be any. So I mean, I think that sounds fine. I don't know if we need to,
I would imagine at the end of the day, it's probably gonna be me going out. Like if they draw a permit to remove a street tree or whatever, you know, it's probably gonna be me going out to at least lay eyes on it and see what the reason is, or, you know,
right,
and make sure that they're using a licensed arborist and doing everything properly. As far as fining and stuff, is there anything in there now
No.
about it?
no, there are no terms as far as
Discuss that.
penalties for not following.
I think that's probably something I'll have to email Brian, our attorney, about, but
Okay,
I feel like there should be some teeth there, don't you think?
well, that's
I mean,
just
we
it, we
can't-
have all these regulations, but I mean, if somebody doesn't follow them, or they, you know, just decide to take all the trees out of their front yard, and we have no way really to try to recoup the
Well, what
cost of
under-
replacing those trees,
Number
or,
11,
is there one in there?
violation and penalty.
By not to exceed $1,000.
Oh, okay, so there is, okay, no, so
I
we're
thought
good then there.
we did. I thought we had put that
Okay.
in there.
So now, to me, are we doing with any tree, and it says located on public property, upon private property to the extent that it encroaches upon such properties or tree and lawn, so are we including street trees in that, you know, where our trees are encroaching on the street, we have to get a permit for those? I'm not understanding and reading it quite like that. Is it just me, my problem?
So yes, we do require people to get permits for
Or
street
their
trees.
street trees?
Yeah, so anything in the front yard,
So maybe we should somehow say,
or that, what number is that?
No, not necessarily the front yard, but
Isn't it
in the,
front yard?
no,
can
right
be
away.
side, could be
In
our
the public
side
right of
yard,
way.
ours is.
Didn't under definition, we have something that showed what,
There should be a definition. of
there was a
right of way.
definition on it. Here, okay. Street tree means any tree or part thereof located within the public right of way. I thought we did an overhang thing.
So what we do, yeah, I guess I just want it to be clear because people get really confused on that point. They think that just because it's in their yard, they can do anything they want.
Right,
Well, that's part of, you know, public education. We've got to educate the people in the community that of their responsibilities, even though it's a street tree, it's their responsibility to care for it.
Oh, it's there, Vicky. Or which grows upon private property to the extent that it encroaches upon such public properties or tree lawns.
I just want it to be really clear because that's a point that
Yeah.
everybody asks you.
so that is kinda confusing, I mean, you could have a huge 80-year-old tree with a canopy that
Yeah,
whatever, 60-foot diameter or something, I mean, that could easily be
yeah, so
through the
we
right of way
have-
and into the street.
Yeah, so then, yeah, we have one that's way on, not a street tree, but hangs way over the street. I don't know, you know, somewhere, that overhang or something, put, just accent that, I just want it to be really, really clear, because people, just like you said, we have to educate the public, but we need to, so they read it and they know
Right,
what it really means.
Right,
make it as black and white as possible.
Yeah,
okay,
exactly.
okay, I've got that in there.
Okay, and then that number 8, the tree destruction, and a tree on public property, so it makes it sound like if it's in the park, no, we can't do anything. But are we gonna apply that to also street trees, they're in people's yards?
I would think it's gotta be, yeah, right away, public property and or right away or something like that.
Or, yeah, or somehow that they know this means you, people.
Right,
Street tree or tree it overhangs on the street or something that's very, very clear.
Okay,
Well, yeah, you could,
And if a tree does die during construction,
Well,
what,
it's
what
like,
do we?
that's what happened on Kings,
I know,
and
the other tree now, another dead tree.
is it, it's looking a little sickly and
It's
poorly,
dead.
yeah. So, hey, you know, I mean, you try, but with the roots of trees, easier said than done. So-
is that what, they dug up some roots when they were replacing that sidewalk and stuff? Is that-
Oh, well, and dug the driveway, and then they had all the utilities to put in, and I mean, it sounds great, don't touch the trees, but you know how far tree roots go.
Oh, yeah.
yeah,
So being in construction,
So do you
I
say
am
no?
always, yeah, I'm always, okay, I'm sorry, you can't put sewer in, you know, or something. You just can't do that. So sometimes you're gonna have damage, even though, yes, you try and preserve.
Or when they bring plans in to do something, such as build a garage as they did, somebody needs to think about
There
the
wasn't,
approval of that garage and the new driveway and approach that's there.
but,
with
and
the
we
trees.
really did work on it, trying to make it go around. You know, it was gonna be more of a round thing. Where the garage is where that was just a hedge.
Well, you'll have to add that tree to your list of trees to be removed and replaced.
Yeah, I think they are already
they're working on it.
working on it from the sounds of it.
Yeah, they've been in talks with us.
Yeah.
Mm.
It's just really, really hard. You know how the trees' roots go, they go
Oh, yeah.
forever.
Yeah.
You know. Because trust me, I'm out there right now.
If you can't, but if you can't enforce it, why have it in there? If you
Well,
can't,
you have, yeah, but somebody comes in and clear cuts their lot so they don't run into tree roots, that's not, we don't want them to do that.
Right,
Right, you gotta find some sort of happy
Yeah,
medium between
happy
future
lead-
development and
Yes.
keeping the trees.
Exactly, so it's like, if at all possible, to preserve the trees. I like the way it's written because it makes people think about it. Because, I mean, how many construction sites do you see where they just, everything gone?
right,
I mean, going up the hill, the apartment complex, going up the hill, they just took everything and then started. Wow. No.
Yeah.
I'm kind of for leaving a few. But I don't know, I think just, you know, making sure that's clear. Sometimes it's gonna happen, no matter what.
yeah, I think that's probably something that we'll want to do too, is just kind of go through this and see if we can add some clarity to some of the,
I think that's it, clarity.
some of this is just very generic, and, you know, the plan that we adopted is so detailed that I think we could probably pull snippets out,
Good point.
you know, update the ordinance to include some of this wording in these, so maybe that's something that I'll try to put together for the next meeting.
Okay.
Is try to find some of those differences and, you know, take what we've talked about already and see what else I can do to just try to word things a little bit better. So. You guys see anything else that's kind of jumping out at you?
Just all the way through the town and city thing that Debbie pointed out, that's really obvious.
Yeah, definitely
Yeah,
we'll update that.
but I think the rest of it looks pretty good.
Okay,
I mean, it's got good intent, and we kind of know what it means, but you
yeah,
have to get somebody who reads it, who really actually reads the ordinance, and they'll know right there without calling in to you for clarity.
the only other thing I don't see here, or I see here that I don't recognize is under permits. I don't think that we have a pruning permit. I think we just have a tree permit. Does that include pruning or?
That's a
I
good
was
point.
under the assumption it did.
Okay,
Anything over 3 inches requires a permit.
okay.
Okay, that's a good one to
So
put in
even
there.
pruning, it's not just removal?
It's not just removal.
Okay,
So pruning of 3-inch branch or a minimum of 3-inch branch, that should probably be
yeah, do we have that
somewhere in there.
identified in there anywhere that you know of?
I don't see it in
What,
here.
okay,
Yes.
what
I wonder
pruning
what-
is, cause I mean, I would assume
I think
pruning would be
it was
like a
mentioned
foot or-
somewhere maybe in the permit, there is a permit
I was gonna say,
document.
if it's
somewhere.
not worded on the permit, maybe we do need to clarify that 3-inch diameter.
Well, let's pull up the permit real quick, just to be sure.
I like that idea.
Oh, where is it? Permit. So there's the tree permit. It's up on the TVs. Prior to planting, replacement, or trimming of trees on or over public property. But it doesn't really identify what. I mean, trimming, that's anything, that's a
Mhm.
smidge,
That might have to be updated too.
Clarify.
yeah.
You're just making lots of no more work for yourself.
I know,
Is that-
give me some things to do.
Just in case you had moments that you didn't have anything to do.
Update tree permit to define what trimming or pruning is, would you say?
Yeah.
And we agree that that's anything over 3 inches?
The
Is it
permit
3
is
inches and
required.
over?
For 3-inch diameter
Okay,
and over.
okay.
Branch or tree.
So anything over 3-inch diameter. Okay, perfect. Close this out. Do we see anything else? I think we're good.
Do we have a permit fee?
No. The
We do
permit is-
not.
Permit was free.
The permit is free, that is correct.
And I think, I don't know, we had talked about that too, and I think Elisa was the one that brought up a good point. Is we'd be nervous to make people shy away from getting a permit if
I
we
know.
had to pay for it.
by charging for it, especially since we require them to use an arborist with insurance and, that's bonded and licensed. So it's like they're already shelling out quite a few bucks for that.
I kinda agree, I don't think there should be a charge more, we want them to get a permit and
Right.
let
So that we
us
can just
know
let
what's
them
going
know,
on,
like,
yeah,
hey,
yeah.
this is the right way to do it, and
Try to get people to do less stuff behind our backs, and
Yeah.
give us more opportunities to educate them on the proper way to do stuff.
I think the main intent for the permit is so that we can keep the inventory updated online. So we know what tree is being removed if they're applying for a permit to remove one.
And that's not a bad point to put on the permit itself. Purpose of this is to keep us informed, and get it on because then people feel like they're not so much being watched and required, but they're helping the cause.
okay, yeah. I think we just need to add more information onto that permit. Let's take a look at that again. So that's just it. Okay. Awesome. Okay, are we ready to move on to 4B? Discuss native species to diversify canopy. So that was one of the items in our urban management plan.
And we know that Jim was very adamant to get away from maples and oaks
Yeah,
and incorporate some other leafy trees.
There again, in the education of public, I think, do we just need to put an article out that, requiring the permit, and we suggest diversification, and somehow, maybe in the newsletter? We just need to just tell people.
I was always an advocate of putting something from the tree board or tree, urban tree management plan into the newsletter, paragraph or something.
I think that's a great idea, and I think it would be nice to identify specifically give a couple examples of trees that would grow really well in this area that we actually need to plant.
And
Well,
just,
there's, in the management plan, there's a list of all the class of
Is
trees,
there?
and where
Okay.
it should go, what genus and species names are.
And that's on the website, right? Is the management plan on the website?
No, but that's a good idea, cause I can add that.
Cause then at least the public can go to there and read through it if they were so inclined.
so then in the newsletter, you can say, check the for the list
Yeah.
of trees.
Yeah, I've been really working to try to keep the website more up to date and a little more interactive, so I'm adding a lot of clicky links to download stuff.
good.
So, I think that's a good idea to put the whole plan on there and then put something in the newsletter directing people to that, and
Well,
I've been
and-
putting the newsletter on our website too.
Just saying, get away from maple and oaks, right there, opens up a whole new, thought process.
Right.
I had a really hard time when we had the one guy on Liberty, I put in another maple because I wanted the consistency, but I can kind
Right.
of see where that isn't exactly what's required, so guilty of that one.
Well, and I think we were too, I mean, I was gonna, along the same lines of this, I was gonna touch on, And I think I talked to a couple of council members and Debbie about it too, as the treasurer, about putting trees in from now on that have like a substantial canopy to them, that have some growth to them. I mean, there's a couple of oaks, I think, that were put in down on the Dalton strips before I even started, and they still look the same as they did, you
It's
know?
puny.
Yeah, just tiny little things, you know, where that one we put in front of King's Place there 2 years or 3 years ago now, that's
Looking good.
looking good, and I mean, and it looked great when we started too, you know, but.
Well, and then I think that's something that, so we really enjoyed the fact that there's oak trees on down the boulevard, and there's maples down Liberty to kind of get over that and put something else in there.
Right.
Trying to get other trees in there.
And I could see I think Jim's whole theory on that was if some bad disease came through, it would just wipe everything out, right? And to try to get away from that possibility.
Yep.
So, I mean, that makes sense.
Good point.
Okay, I think those are really good ideas. I can definitely get information up on the website. As far as putting something together for the newsletter, I think that's a good idea. Do any of you have any time you might be able to put something together, or at least give me some bullet points on what we would want to include in the newsletter? Because you can always just email me just a couple topics, and I can put together a little something.
When's the
or other.
next newsletter coming?
Next newsletter is gonna be winter, so I believe that'll go out in January. So we've got a little bit of time, which is nice.
Okay,
You
good,
could even
because-
bring it to the next meeting.
Yeah, that might be the thing.
Yeah.
I'm useless in December. I'm overwhelmed.
So yeah, as long as we had it out before, I think it'll go out in our January 5th billing. So if we had it in December, just a couple little bullet points or highlights that we really want people to know about. I think I think the permit's a good one for sure. Referencing the plan's a good one, and then if there's any other FYIs, you know, to throw in there.
Permits and then diversification of the
Yeah.
kind. I mean, right there, that's very informational.
Yeah,
You might wanna point them to a specific, if you're gonna reference the plan, I mean, it's really wordy.
it is. You
And
could always,
nobody's gonna sit and read it. I started to read it again this morning and I
Got
gave
bored?
up. I didn't even get halfway through.
so yeah, drawing their attention to certain pages or sections might be the way to go
So,
if,
I mean, I think the tree list is in the appendices somewhere. I mean, that's a good place for
So
them
just
to
do
start.
the specific, don't say, oh, go read this.
Yeah.
right,
They're not gonna
say,
do
you
it.
know,
Yeah.
for a list of trees that we would like to add, you know, check out page blah, blah, blah.
Good
and For
idea.
information on how to, you know, handle sidewalks and abatement, like go
Yeah,
to,
you can,
page
for
whatever.
every newsletter, you can point to, you know, a specific section in the plan.
Mhm.
Or every newsletter that you wanna put information about this, and it's,
And the plan is now, it is on the,
I will add it probably tomorrow, honestly. It's really easy to add stuff like that on there, so.
which would be great, because then they just need to go to that.
They can just go and they'll be able to download it and search through wherever we want to direct them.
but there's a lot of good information in there, especially, you know, like you said, trees and infrastructure, you know, conflicts, sidewalks, you know, the right tree in the right place, the list of trees. But no one's gonna read through this whole thing.
Oh my gosh, these nails. Okay, I think that's all a really good plan. Get things on the website, get something in the newsletter, and just get information out there. So I think that's a good way to let people know how to diversify when they are replanting.
There's even a pretty extensive section on pruning.
Which would be great.
Yeah.
For people's
But
information.
he makes it, he's very adamant on having an arborist do it.
Well, you do see a lot of errors, that's for sure.
Shouldn't it be the artist that was pulling the permit too?
Well, that's pretty much what it says
Yeah.
in here. We have to make sure that, yeah, it did says whoever's doing the work needs to have all this, but maybe that should be designated that
Yeah,
is an arborist.
I think, so it does designate that it's an arbor, it has to be an arborist and they have to be licensed and bonded and insured. I think the property owner has to file the permit, don't they?
I think that's what we decided, cause we just went through this with the Kings. Because I think if I remember right, I think the guy that was gonna cut it down came in.
But we had no way to identify that he had permission from the property owners.
Yeah.
to cut down
And we
trees.
didn't have any of his information about license and bonding and anything like
So
that.
in other words, the permit, the application has to be totally updated.
I think it needs to include the
Owner.
property owner and the contractor, the arborist, and their contact information, cause we need to know that. I mean, I would assume that the property owner's filing the permit, but I guess, I mean, in construction, how does that usually work? Is
In
that
the
the
city,
contractor?
in
A
the
lot of times
city,
the contractor.
It's,
in the city of Spokane, when somebody pulled a tree permit, the property owners did bring it in, and then they list, but we had a list of every contractor. You know, you can look
Right,
for their bonding and their insurance online.
yeah,
And so they would list who was going to remove the tree.
that makes
On
more
their
sense to
permit.
me, is that the property owner would file for the permit and let us know what contractor's doing the work so that we can confirm
And
that
then
they're.
you confirm their bonding and insurance.
Yeah, before we approve the
And their
permit.
contractor's license.
however, you know,
Yeah, I
whatever you
think-
think simple, but it's gotta be really clear
Yes.
to them. Yeah, I agree. That makes sense, so.
That does kind of almost take us into the next item, permit fees. So we've agreed though that we're not gonna charge any permit fees, but we need to update the permits a little bit.
But you know, if you go back to 13 on this, and it says there's 13 and 14, insurance and bonding and certification, number 12. In a sense, they could almost be put under one, in the name of your arborist has to be this.
Yeah.
Because this, listing it out like this makes it, okay, well, does that mean if I have to get a bond if I'm going to trim my tree? You know, I mean, it's,
Yeah, I guess that's true.
yeah, so, you know, I'm not so very sure 12, 13, and 14 could be kind of put together as just your arborist. This is what's required of the arborist you're gonna employ.
Yeah, let me see, let me finish this thought and then I'll jump on that one.
See, it is kind of confusing because it says before any permit for tree work
Yeah,
shall be issued, each applicant shall first file with the town evidence of possession of compensation, and that's, so the
That's
applicant has to
purely-
be a contractor.
and that's
or a
purely
certified
professional.
arborist, so-
That's, yeah, that's a purely professional requirement, all of those, so,
It probably should all be combined together, and then you're gonna read it like that.
yeah.
Okay,
Because there's no way individual going to.
that's 12, 13, and 14.
Actually, you could probably put it all under permits.
Well, I'm wondering, but the permit, you have to say it needs to be the homeowner. And then you go on and designate your arborist has to have these requirements.
Mm,
So it is kind of split.
yeah,
You know, in the name of the homeowner coming in, would it be adequate to have just a section on the permit that they have to sign? So I mean, I know a lot of professional, people don't want to have to come in and get the permit. They're gonna send their professional in to get it and then requiring them to do it.
I mean, we can just put, rather than like signature of applicant, we could put signature of property owner.
Property owner and the applicant both would have to sign it then, that they're,
Would you
know.
have-
If the applicant is not the property
would
owner.
you have to have it notarized?
No, we don't.
No, I don't think that. I
No?
mean,
Our notaries
if you
on-
got somebody different, and like you said, if you're looking up on, because it's real easy to look up labor and industry to see if they're licensed.
Yeah.
That's not what I meant.
Yeah, but,
The property owner,
yeah, I know, but,
he could, like you were afraid that someone would pull a permit without permission from the property owner.
right,
And if they have the
But-
property, they can just forge that too. I mean, that's another thing.
but I don't know, would they do that in our
City-
environment?
City of Spokane required a lot of things to be notarized, yeah. And then
I don't
that's the
know.
second
Yeah.
thing, so maybe it's just better if the property owners come in.
Yeah, I guess that's true, just to cut that out. That way at least we can talk to the property owner. And we don't get a ton of these in anyway, so I'm
That's
not
true.
super
It's a
worried
good
about.
point.
I mean, if we were getting tons in and contractors and homeowners were like, oh my gosh, this is ridiculous, it might be an issue, but with how few of them we do get, I think having the homeowner, property owner come in is
I could throw
Just the
another one out there too.
the best way.
The property owner could do that, say somebody's gonna do it and then they do it themselves, so
Mhm.
that's another.
Mm-hmm.
Cause we don't have a public, well, if they gave a day that it was gonna be done, you could send somebody there to check it out, I think
Yeah, it
that's.
has on there the day the work is gonna
Yeah,
be
that's what the
completed.
city does, so,
So,
yeah,
And
Spokane.
Kyle tends to do drive-bys, so.
There's a couple times I called Paul when there's chainsaws in the distance and things are falling. It's like, Paul, is there a permit?
The biggest thing I think would be a lot of property owners are taking the dead wood out. I know the guy across the street did. And he got some that were over 3 inch. That needs to be really specified, what they can cut.
Yeah, I think that's definitely gonna be a good addition to identify what actually requires a permit. So I've got that in here to include
Good.
that. Was there anything else on these 3 items?
Well,
that
did we
wanna
talk
add?
about that public comment period deadline and Arbor Day celebration on 3B and C?
No, if those were, I guess those were
Three
from the
sections.
last meeting.
Yeah,
I was not in attendance at that, but if you guys had anything you wanted to add to those, we definitely can go back to those.
but I can't remember the deadline, it's passed.
Oh, yeah, that was
Past.
long past, and then that had to go to council to be adopted.
Right,
Yeah,
and
that-
then the Arbor Day celebration just kind of automatically, we do that, but
Yeah.
it's
Yeah, you-
April,
you
end of
already did
April,
that,
so, yeah.
Yeah, these are all fairly old items. It's been a while.
Well, that's why I was like, wait a minute,
Paul was still here at the last meeting,
yeah,
and he left about the middle of March, so.
so we
It's-
just had
it's
it
been a minute.
upcoming, yeah, it was, yeah, we're not talking about next year's, we're talking about
Right.
last year's.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So the next agenda, instead of having previous action items, it will just have the meeting minutes for you guys to approve.
Okay.
And instead of having to list out what we discussed at the last meeting, we can just approve the meeting minutes, and if not, we can amend them to include whatever we need to. So it should make it make it flow a little bit better. So I guess we'll move on to board member comments. Charlie, I know you mentioned wanting to,
There is an application process in ongoing through the DNR for urban forest management grants. The deadline is January 8th. It is an online process. We can use the management plan as a template for what we wanna do with this grant money. One suggestion would be to start on the suggested removal of the trees in the management plan, the 67 trees that within the plan that are suggested to have removed.
I think that's a really good idea. Who generally writes the grants?
So typically, we have our engineers do that,
Okay,
but I've talked to Welch and I don't think they really have a urban forestry grant writer type person there. They're mostly utilities, roads, stuff like that.
Well,
So like I
Daniel-
said, Daniel did that one and
apparently he did a great job on it. But
He did
that's
a
what I
great
heard.
that's what I heard. I think that
We're trying to get him in the office a little bit more, so maybe that's something that he can work on in December.
possibly, I think I'd like Charlie to be in on it though too, if he's willing.
Well, he has experience in the type of thing we're after.
Okay,
Yeah. And I mean, I probably would have some downtime this winter if I could find
okay.
the one that Daniel wrote initially, you know, I
Right.
could probably stumble through it or help out or whatever. I'm gonna,
It's that January 8th deadline.
yeah, I know,
Right.
that's what's gonna kinda kill us.
It's using Daniels as a template for this one, it's the same
And we already have,
granting agency, so
right, and we already have our goals that we wanna try to achieve and to delegate the money towards.
Right, so it should be fairly easy if we've
So-
already got
well, you've
Yes.
got two options.
huge plan
From what I
together.
see is start addressing the tree removal or start addressing 2/3 of the 900 trees need pruning according to the management plan, 2/3.
Yeah,
There's
So-
definitely no shortage of work out there, and from what I've heard at the last council meetings and stuff, particularly Dan Sanders, but I think everybody has a genuine interest to allocate some money, whether it be the city's money and or grant money for sure, into putting this urban forestry plan into use, you know, and starting to make our canopy healthier. So
Right.
that's good. I think we have good support through everything.
Yeah, but you can bite off a huge chunk through the grant process.
Absolutely.
yeah, I think that's a really good idea. I'll touch bases with you and Daniel after we get through this week. And
Yeah.
see what we can work out.
What's the dollar limit on us?
350,000. I forgot what I was gonna say.
With something like that, do we identify how much money we're asking for? Or do
Yes,
we
you
just?
have to.
Okay, is
You
it
have to
better to
ask
try
first.
to stay lower in the hopes of getting approved, or to just shoot for 350,000 and see what they give us?
Well, you gotta spell it out exactly what you're gonna do with your 350,000.
Well, I mean, 350,000 would remove all the trees. All
What's the
trees.
time frame on that? You have to
There's,
have
I
it
think
done by-
it's,
The-
well, the more money you ask for, the longer time that
Oh,
you
okay.
get. I think it's 2027 if you're maxing it out.
Oh,
Don't quote me on that, it's longer though.
Okay.
If you ask for $10,000, it's gotta be done by the end of next year,
Gotcha.
or somewhere in that time frame.
But if you're spending a lot, and it's gonna be over a time limit, they'll stretch it.
Yeah.
And I think that, I mean, Charlie knows more about this than I do, but in the limited knowledge I have about it, I mean, every tree removal is gonna be a different price based on technicalness, you know, I mean, I had 4 trees removed up at our Butler property, 2 that were big nasty old black locusts that were too close to the shop. And then 2 other ones that had to be removed so we could expand the yard. They were just smaller fruit bearing type trees. And I think I got all those done, 2 stumps ground, all that for like, I think $4,600.
Oh, that's a great price.
That was Bartlett that did that,
Close.
so, yeah. So I mean, but like I said, when you get into these 80-year-old trees down here, if power lines and buildings and everything else, I mean, they can get pretty expensive.
Mhm. Well, I think we'll have to go through the bid process, but the trees that were suggested to be removed aren't prioritized. So that's gonna have to be done, that's gonna have to be part of the contract. Prioritize the trees that need to be removed. Start at the top and whatever we ask for, that's how many trees we're gonna get done.
Let's start with the highest risk ones and
Maybe like the park would probably be a good place to start.
So Daniel's gonna have to identify where these trees are
Right.
and share that with whoever's hired as
We
the
need a map
contractor.
and then we can,
Well,
maybe we could section
that's
off
part,
parts of the
supposed to be
city.
part of his GIS stuff that he's
Okay.
doing.
I'll guarantee you they're identified on the GIS layer,
Okay.
where
Where's
they're
that?
at, but they're not prioritized.
Gotcha.
As far as which one's gonna fall tomorrow, and which one's gonna fall next
Yeah,
week.
We have to start at the top and work our way down.
Yeah.
And no matter where it is,
Right, well, and
anywhere.
I think the park would probably, like she said, I mean, that'd be pretty high risk. I don't know, I think of one, that spruce or whatever that's back there behind the restrooms. That one was doing a weird thing a couple of years ago where it was dropping branches out of it. And I think we had Garth look at that. And so, I mean, that's about the only one in the park I could see that could be a hazard. But, yeah, I mean, we got
So
definitely
when
have
is,
some-
is our map gonna be ready?
Shouldn't have been already.
Probably as soon as this winter comes and I can have Daniel spend more time inside working on the computer stuff.
So are we gonna be able to get the information to write the grant right away, or can we?
I think we can move forward with the grant without that GIS layer. I mean, if the
The
trees are,
GIS would make it, when you really actually get it, to really put.
it would just make it more convenient when we go to actually put boots on the ground to go look at the trees with the company or whatever. It would just make it more convenient to be able to pinpoint it, but I mean, that's just as simple as us going out a day or 2 ahead of time and, you know, just knowing in our heads where they are, put a little mark on them or whatever we gotta do to, you know,
Right,
it's fine, it's not a big deal.
you can do your own rating system, I mean, you're gonna be able to tell.
Whoever, the contractor's gonna have to prioritize the trees.
Yeah, he'll prioritize them, we'll just get them lined out ahead of time, so we know where to take him, you know, so we're not looking at a whole block of trees trying to figure out which one it is, we'd be like, okay, it's this one over here, it's this one over here, it's this one over here, which are the most concerning ones we need to address first.
And not knowing where they're at, they could be on a public right of way next to somebody's house or yard or something, and maybe they don't want it gone. So there's gonna have to be some public input.
Well, that's why I thought starting in the park and a trail might be the best option, cause at least we don't have to get permission from people to remove those trees.
Right, the
Might be
trail
the
won't have
easiest.
anything, cause
The
it's
trail
all
isn't.
new stuff, yeah.
Okay, so
But, yeah.
park and then
The Dalton strip,
I think the Dalton Strip and the park are probably gonna be our 2
Yeah.
easiest and highest liability
and I think there
locations.
was some,
We need to get in there though, if you take them out of the Dalton strip, part of it to be replanting trees too, right?
That'd be a different, it's gotta be it's gonna be a different grant, or,
Couldn't it?
Well, that could
So
be,
No,
Could
it
the
could
grant
be
be
in this grant
replacement?
too, right?
it could.
do we wanna, what do we wanna do? Where do you wanna spend your
Well, you
money
can-
first?
Pick your, how many trees you're gonna do. But then the replacement of those trees is how much too, the ones you want to replace.
Yeah, like pick 20 trees that we're gonna
I mean, you
remove
may
and
not replace all the trees,
or 10,
but when you talk about the Dalton strip, those have to be replaced.
yeah.
We'll
I'm just,
work on
yeah.
that.
You
If-
got
if-
too close to
if
home
there-
there.
If there are any
Dalton
trees,
strip.
we don't even know if the Dalton strip
Oh, I
needs
didn't,
to
was
be
she, I
removed.
didn't know.
Well, there
How
were
many
There's
were
so
there?
many, I would
I
have
think
assumed
there was
that
a
some of
couple.
them.
Yeah, there was one right outside of Claire and Luke's.
Yeah.
Gate, that was a bad one, and then that.
There was one that had a big fungus growing on it too a couple
Right, I
years
remember
ago.
that one, yeah. And, but, it's always gonna be that way. So next year's, so if we removed them, and then next year's grant's gonna have to be replace them, or get city
Right.
council to approve some money to replace them, or, we're just gonna have to go about it.
And I did budget, I put some in this next year's budget for that.
So if we can get the grant to remove and then use our budget money to replace, that would
That
be the best
works.
option.
That works.
Or depending on, I don't know, like I said, I don't have any grant experience yet, but if we can just word it in there, remove and replace, like you're
Yeah,
talking.
you can.
If we remove 10 trees, then we plan on putting 10 back or whatever,
Yeah.
And we just start chipping away at it.
So
year
how
by
many,
year like
how
that.
many trees did they say were needed removing?
67.
67. That's a lot.
Yeah. Yes.
It would be nice to know which ones he designated. Yeah, some of them are obvious, but you don't know what he was talking about.
Well, I think Kyle and Daniel will get together with you and kind of discuss how best to word the grant. If that's okay.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I can start digging into it. At least look at the application.
Yeah, if you wanna do that, that'd be appreciated. We're still cleaning up from leaf season and trying to get all the trucks and plows and stuff ready for snow and so we're gonna be pretty slammed for the next couple weeks, but hopefully after that, depending on the weather at that point.
If it doesn't snow, we'll be fine.
Yeah, if it doesn't snow after that point, hopefully we get more office time to start getting him working on his GIS stuff some more and probably start getting real serious about this grant if we're gonna go after it, since the deadline will be here before we know it.
I think it's in my opinion, it's pretty high priority. I mean, like I said, you can bite off a big chunk of what needs to be done and as far as the urban forest maintenance when using grant funds.
Yeah.
And they're statewide, there's over $7 million.
Wow.
So it's a huge opportunity that I would not wanna pass by.
You did get a lot done with 350,000.
Yeah.
All 67 trees, depending.
Okay, that's definitely something we can get working on too. Awesome. Vicky, did you have anything you wanted to discuss?
Not really, I think everything's pretty much been covered.
Perfect. How about you, Debbie?
No.
Awesome. Staff comments?
I said my 2 cents.
I know. Did as well. Perfect. So set next meeting, I know, right?
Public comments?
No public comments. For set next meeting, I think we all agreed that we want to have a meeting next month. So we will scratch the February 2023 and we will set next meeting for, let me check my calendar here. Is it normally the second to last Monday? Is that how,
I thought it was last.
or is it the last Monday?
Second Monday.
Or the second?
Or the second Monday? I don't know, I'd have to look backward, I guess we just change them so often, I don't know.
Second Monday would be the day before council.
Day before council, yeah. 18th would be ideal, but
Yeah, that's fine.
because we do planning commission the last week of the month and city council's the second week of the month. So if we could set you guys for the third week of the month, that way I can space them out a little bit.
Yeah, I was gonna say, she's got lots of stuff going on coming into council meetings, it seems like.
So the third being
So this would be, it would be December 18th.
December 18th.
Do you guys have any conflicts at this time?
Six o'clock.
Yes.
It is written.
Awesome. Okay, so December 18th at 6 o'clock p.m. Fabulous. Well, Charlie, do you want to go ahead and adjourn us?
Okay, do I have to do the time?
You don't have to if you don't want to. You can just say
The time?
meeting's adjourned and the time.
The meeting is adjourned, it's 6:59.
Thank you.
Punch a hole in the table like I did last time.
Did you really?
I think it was, somebody made a comment that it was a little aggressive.
Perfect. I'm gonna go ahead